Welcome to the video where we look at the game Anna Muzychuk played two brilliant moves and the game which won her the Norway chess event. So knight f3, knight f6, and she goes for the symmetrical English. This position could also have arisen from the c pawn starting. And now she wants to fianchetto. There's a line where black also chooses fianchettos, but this is the more theoretical line, and here you're playing more for an advantage. So we go down, developing, and she takes the knight to get taken back, and now her queen is open, and she can grab the center with this move e5. But this does give white the b file, which you have to know for the future, and also this pawn break, but that will get hard because four of white pieces are looking at that square. So castles, bishop develops, and instead of d5, which is impossible, d6, just a slow game, castles, and here we see that the rook goes to the open file, pressuring the pawn, so the bishop can move. So she defends the pawn with queen, so the bishop can move. And now the knight drops back, and the bishop develops, and the knight moves to this square. You don't want to take this knight because it does give isolated pawns, but it isn't worth to lose the bishop pair over, especially not because this bishop will be really good if the light squared bishop is traded off. So she just develops the rook, and here June plays the queen active. She is the road champion, by the way, and she pressures the pawn over here. So maybe she's threatening to take, and then take the pawn, but she doesn't really want to give this bishop away. But Anna just defends the knight and also sets up some stuff at the queen. June drops the knight back, trying to get in the middle and take these pieces and win the bishop pair. So Anna just moves back, protected. Now she plays this nice move c5 to enable the move knight d5. Also for this bishop to look at this strong diagonal, and maybe it wants to even go to the corner to keep the rook open. Now Anna just let another piece look at this square, and also this square. She puts the knight in the center. Also this move doesn't come with a tempo, and now she can move the bishop, so she hasn't lost the bishop for the knight. Just developing the bishop, and now Anna puts her knight in the center, threatening to take this pawn. So June just drops the queen back. It has served its purpose, and also it was hanging, of course, but you don't want to take this pawn because then you lose this one over here, and you could really quick counterplay at the a file. So now she puts even more pressure. The rook defends, and she pushes this pawn forward, so the queen doesn't have to stay defending the pawn. And now she wants to get rid of the knight, but Anna Muzychuks says, take my knight, I'm okay with having a strong pawn in the center. And she plays f4, so Anna plays f5 with support from the rook. And f6, just kicking out the bishop, getting some pressure off. Bishop has to draw back, and now she plays all the pawns to the third rank, attacking the knight. Knight has to go back, but these pawns are pretty weak because they are not defending each other. So the bishop pressures, maybe the rook and the queen will pressure. Pawn breaks are dangerous. So here she plays this move. This does give the square back to the knight, so maybe she wants to go back. But no, she plays f4, a good move, because she wants to attack the king at this side of the board. So she tries to open up the king by taking. She also is okay with getting taken. Here, the first brilliant. Rook takes f4, sacrificing the rook because the knight can take it. And after take, you might think, why was that a good sacrifice? Because aren't you just down in exchange? You are, but you traded off this rook for this central knight, and in this position was the knight a lot stronger than the rook was. And also now you have the strong pawn taking squares away. This file is open to the king, pressure from the bishop. The knight can come in, putting even more pressure. The queen can come, we'll go to this file, the rook has a rook lift. So there are a lot of attacking ideas in this position. But Jun also finds a great move, attacking the bishop drops back, and now she blunders. She pushes the pawn to d4, and after takes, and the bishop drops back, the idea is that the knight now can go to the square, but she just brings the queen to the party, wants to pin the bishop, attack the king. The queen moves up, and the bishop moves. The threat is to win the queen. After this, it's discover check, and you win the queen. So king moves out of the way, and the bishop drops back, setting also discovery up at the rook. After the queen moves to g4, the rook will be hanging. But this move, e6, just trying to get the pawn down and have Anna sacrifice a piece for it, to not let it become queen. But also a nice move of Anna attacking the queen, intermediate move. The queen drops back, and now the knight has the square because she pushed it forward. It's putting pressure. This pawn is an anchor, so the knight can go there, supported by the pawn. The rook moves to the center, maybe putting pressure to the pawn in the future, to this pawn. But she goes in with the knight, and Anna attacks the queen, secure defends the pawn. So after the queen moves, this pawn is very far and defended. Bishop moves out, you may think, isn't that a blunder? Can't I just take it? But after take, you lose the knight and you can take back because you get kind of checkmated. Not really, but you have a really bad position because you lost the rook for a bishop. So this is where the second brilliant moves comes in. I think you never find it, even how long you look at this position, because it's a really crazy move. She found it with 11 minutes on the clock, and it took her 6 minutes to find the brilliant move, bishop to e4. What's the point? In the game she took, but let's look. What if she takes the bishop here, for example, because then the bishop is in hanging. Then you lose to this, and the king has no more squares, so the queen has to sacrifice, so that doesn't work. But you might think, then you of course think, what about just take the bishop? But she took the bishop, so she lost the bishop to take a bishop. But we saw a little time earlier that when you take this bishop, the rook can take the pawn, right? No, it can't, because you don't take back with the pawn now. You take back with the queen, and after the queen trade, you say, but you still lose the rook. And yes, you do, and you're now down a rook, but there is no way to defend this pawn from queening. Not with rook, not with any of these pieces. And you might say, what about this? But you queen with check, and the game is over. So that's why it's such a brilliant move and idea. So get taken, she takes, and instead of taking the knight right here, she will just be down an exchange. Jun's actually up an exchange for a couple of pawns, but this knight is so strong, the queen is pressuring, and this rook is hanging in the corner, and she doesn't take the rook because she just takes the pawn back. Now this can be taken because the rook is defended. Bishop check, king just goes to the corner, and a queen trade is offered. She takes it, and puts the bishop out to g5. Still this isn't an idea because the rook is still defended by the bishop. The rook moves, and now good move, knight attack the rook. Rook has to move. Now you push this pawn even further. You threaten to queen it, so the bishop stops it. Now she just has to make improving moves to get the king to help promoting, because this bishop will never come help to promote on the square, and there are now 3 defenders and only two attackers, so you have to bring the king. And we'll see. Now Anna Muzychuk brings the king. She's starting. Making also improving moves, kicking out the bishop. Bishop has to stay on one of these diagonals, controlling this square. King comes even further. She takes the pawn. But now Anna wins the center pawn. H4, H5, just not letting them get counterplay by taking and opening up the rook. And intermediate move this to put pressure. Oh, that's a mistake. Just put pressure and also defend the knight. And now the king comes. Also it is because you want to bring the king but not let it block the rook's vision to the pawn, because then the pawn can maybe get lost. And now the bishop anchors the pawn in, so nothing can take it. This bishop just stays on the diagonal, and Anna Muzychuk takes the pawn. Rook drops back, king takes this pawn. She forces a rook trade. The knight comes back, and it's very classy that she just takes the pawn because she doesn't want to worry about this pawn queening. This bishop isn't really doing anything, so she just takes. Plays king e7. After the king moves, she doesn't queen, she just brings these pawns because she knows these will get taken. And then I have to promote my other pawns, so she just pushes them. And now she takes. And after this move, you can stop this pawn gate, you can only stop by sacrificing your rook. And then you will just promote this other pawn. And so, Jun resigned. This is the game. They gave Anna Muzychuk such a big advantage that she just drew the last game and won the tournament. So congratulations to Anna Muzychuk. Really nice tournament she has played. And she had two very nice brilliant moves. And I hope you all enjoyed this video. Check out my other ones. And have a